second as Yusuf Danso Memorial Hospital, Ajia Gambo Sawawa General Hospital, Sir Patrick Ibrahim Yakowa Memorial Hospital, and Borodiko Teaching Hospital. So these are also open for investors. Next. So also electronic medical records also in our secondary health facilities. This will also increase efficiency in service delivery at the secondary health facilities. So these are also open for investors. We also need to leverage on technology for social networking for the state health insurance scheme. One of the major challenges of the health insurance scheme is that people are not key into the insurance scheme, especially the informal sector. And this is one of the gateway towards achieving universal coverage, because people need to be part of the health insurance so that people don't pay out of their pocket, because at the time that they may be sick, they may not have sufficient money to pay for health services. Then we have the cardiac catheterization laboratory that is in Borodiko Teaching Hospital. Then the laboratory and diagnosis services in secondary health facilities. We need to also invest on CT scan and magnetic resonance imaging. So these are areas that are actually open for investment for investors in the health sector. Next slide. Yes, so in Borodiko Teaching Hospital, there is a new wing that we are trying to build. This is a prototype of that wing. And this is also going to be open for a lot of investment, especially in Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology for in vitro fertilization. So, and then Department of Surgery for laparoscopy services, Internal Medicine Department for hemodialysis services, Medical Microbial Biology Department for laboratory services, Anatomic Pathology Department for mortuary services, and then Hematological Department for laboratory services. So all these areas will be open for investors to come and partner with us so that this will work efficiently. Next slide. So this slide is showing the turnover that will be realized if some of these areas of investment are working efficiently, like for the magnetic resonance imaging scan. At the end of one, you can see the monthly return from our projection, what the monthly return will be. And at the end of a 5-year period, we will be able to generate up to 900 million. Then for CT scan, the same thing. Then we have the modular theater complex. If this will also, if this theater also works efficiently, we can also generate a huge sum of revenue for the state. And then medical laboratory complex, and then the intensive care units, and the cardiac catheterization laboratory. So these cardiac catheterization laboratory have the capacity to be able to generate huge sum of money of about 5.4 billion at the end of a 5-year period. So with all this, if all these are moving smoothly, we can generate almost 10 billion naira in a 5-year period. So these are all areas that are open for investors in the health, under health. So we actually, next slide. So the health sector is actually an area that investment can actually take place very, good investors can actually key into this area, and we can be able, we are open for partnership to improve health in the state and in Nigeria as a whole. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll just give a few minutes before I call on the next presenter. If anybody has any question for him before we move on real quick. Okay, so in um, the absence of questions, I'd like to call on the next presenter. He is the CEO and president of Jamba Football Club. He's going to be speaking on football innovation, investments, and new opportunities on the horizon. Please, can we put our hands together as he makes his way to the stage, Barrister Jamba Zira, to shed some light on football innovation, investments, and new opportunities on the horizon.
Much. Good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies. I bring you greetings from Jamba Football Academy in Kaduna State. And I'm here to present the innovations that Kaduna State can imbibe in investing in the area of football. Football is this my slide? Football is a global game as known by everybody. Football generates billions of dollars, billions of pounds in investment and investment of returns or return of investment from around the world. Football is viewed by over 3 billion people in the world. Oh, can I use my laptop? You don't have it there? Yeah, football is truly a big business in the world, and I'm going to go through the revenues of football clubs in the world. In the Premier League, we have about 6.1 billion euros of investment and return in the year 2021 and 2022. In the La Liga, Spain, we have 3.4 billion euros on return on investment in football. And in Bundesliga, the Germans, they have about 3 billion euros of return on investment in football. And in Serie A, we have 2.3 billion US dollars. We have in La Liga, in League One, 1.7 billion euros. You know, all these revenues are coming from endorsements. They are coming from investment. They are all coming from sale of players. They are coming from ticketing. They are coming from TV rights. They are coming from licensing. All these monies are generated by the FAs of those nations. And you know, in the last 2021-2023 season, a huge sum of money was distributed by the Premier League to all the 20 clubs. Like in Spain, a single individual is proposed to receive about 105.1 billion in one season. Kylian Mbappe is in PSG and is estimated to receive 5.1 billion in income, his personal income. Messi is expected to have 120 billion. Then in English League, Cristiano Ronaldo is expected to have 1 million pounds per season as an individual player. You know, football is a money spinning venture that so many people are not aware of. and so many governments are taking their hands off football. But the investment in football is so enormous, the return on investment in football is so enormous that cannot be neglected by the Kaduna State government. The Kaduna State government over the years have neglected football as a source of joy for the nation, football as a source of income for the state. And in Kaduna State, I am particular about Kaduna State because this project is for Kaduna State specifically. The youth in Kaduna State are enthusiasts in football or in sport generally, but are they as completely neglected and sidelined in the area of employment and also taken away from what's it called, juvenile delinquencies. When you allow the youth to continue in that aspect, your state will continue to have issues with taking care of crimes. But by the time you put football and other sports in perspective, you see that automatically you reduce the commission of crimes. You reduce drugs abuse. You bring empowerment for the teeming youth. Youth is the backbone of every nation. Your development and investment is mostly dependent on consumption upon the population. And the population of Kaduna State is basically the youth. And the youth is a major component of this, our society. Then over the years, over 8 years, football and other sports has been neglected in this state. And look at one person, Kylian Mbappe, getting about 150 million pounds to his pocket and his family. And this man is an African descent. Please, can you put this on the slide now? I want everyone to see the statistics there. This is it. Next slide, yeah. Next slide, we are done with this. Yeah, youth development, yeah. As I've said earlier, the youth is a major component of population in Kaduna State. And they are the future of the state, and youth participation in every sector of the state is major factor to the development of the state. Youth is majorly guilty in juvenile delinquency, drug abuse, confusion in decision making, and other social vice. It is pertinent to note that these youths are really crazy football enthusiasts. You know, investment in football can be committed to way of empowering youth for large-scale social development. Football can be transcend the barriers of gender, nationality, and ethnicity, and address issues such as kidnapping, banditry, gang violence, lack of education, or poor health practices. You know, we have seen the potential of football in action. It will be great to see that the intrinsic value of the game, teamwork, inclusion, respect embedded in the youth. Football can be used to unleash the full potential of youth as actors of peace and contribution in the end to violence. Provision of football infrastructure and organization of football events will encourage youth participation. Thus, there will be a less involvement in crime, a sense of inclusivity, reduction in drug abuse, employment opportunities, foster friendship and internal communal cooperation. The next slide. Why do we choose Kaduna? Kaduna is where we live. In Kaduna, we have Kaduna United. We have other football clubs, but the government has said have abandoned this sport. This sport must be revisited. Because of the number of youth we have in Kaduna State, the youth alone is able to generate revenue for Kaduna State. If Kaduna State will invest in youth and create opportunity for the youth, there's going to be a huge return on investment, like the example I gave of the Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe and Cristiano Ronaldo of Manchester United. Next slide. This is where we start in Kaduna State. This is where we are going to start in Kaduna State. We are going to start in Kaduna State by giving opportunity to get back into the NLO, Nigerian National League, is a starting point. And getting back to the starting point is the beginning of creation of that wealth and opportunity for the youth. Next slide. The NLO is the amateur section of the football in Nigeria. So by the time we start with that, we grow. We have to start with as a baby. We have to start as a baby, then we nourish and groom the youth to go to the national level and also to the Premier League. So employment of professional football coaches for the club. Once you are able to get an NLO club, a slot in the National League, then the next thing is to get a head coach that is knowledgeable in the area of identifying youths that are talented. And you groom them, you assemble them together for the next season. You see, the first step to be taken is the reposition Kaduna State, Kaduna United, is to recruit a professional coach that has the knowledge of identifying good talents, young talent that are marketable in Europe. Providing and signing a coach is sufficient understanding of the needs objective of working culture in which he operates. Once you are able to identify a coach that has the knowledge of identifying these young talents, then you give that coach a mandate to recruit such players that are marketable. We are not going to do it as business as usual, where you just give us fund for the creation of football club. You have to turn it into a business venture, away from the day-to-day, the way things used to be. Now you have to change it in such a way that all these things, you have to give a guideline to your coach on what you need, the kind of training that you require. You have to employ so many people, the assistant coaches, the other crews that will go ahead with the coach. Next slide. This is benefit of recruiting a coach. The coach will be able to position the players to face the task ahead. Because as we are starting now, we are going to start with the lowest league. Then you go up to the National League, then to the Premier League. Then those players you are selecting must be able to work with the coach hand in hand, to be able to have mental preparation to face the Premier League. Then the second one is the highest promotion. Because by the time you are starting with the NLO, your aim is to gain promotion to the National Premier League. But National Premier League is not going to be an end to your investment. It's not going to be an end to your investment. Aside creating a Kaduna Football Club, aside that, alongside you are going to create Kaduna Football Academy that will now be feeding the national team. Assurance of professional free-flowing football, improving the image of the club. International preseason. The idea of international preseason is for sale of players. So those players can be sold through international participation of preseason. You can travel with the number of your teams to any part of Europe during preparation for preseason, and one of these big clubs can identify them, and from there you'll be able to make a sale. Marketing of players to Europe and other overseas countries. Next slide. Next slide, sir. Scouting of players for the club. If Kaduna United is actually established and Kaduna Football Academy is established, this is how you scout your players. We are highly equipped with the knowledge of Nigerian football, having been privileged to watch some of the Pro League matches played in Kaduna United. We have streamlined the strengths and weaknesses of the club in terms of players, position, and availability, and came to the conclusion that some players need to be offloaded. That is the present Kaduna United that are nowhere. We have Kaduna United, but they are nowhere now. So now this is the 2 minutes. This is the avenues where you used to select your players to replace the existing ones. Next slide. I've spoken about that. We are going to set Kaduna United, Kaduna State is supposed to set an academy that will be feeding the Kaduna United with the players. In so doing, the coaching team will go from one local government to another in selection of talents that will bring them in one place as Kaduna United Academy. Next slide. Next slide, sir. I have 1 minute. Scouting tournaments. Kaduna United can organize a scouting tournament where Europeans can be invited to exhibit those players to them. And any player that is selected is going to come directly, the transfer is going to come from that foreign club directly to Kaduna United. Next slide. Marketing of players, I've spoken about that. Next slide. If I may add to that marketing, we are going to, it's good for the Kaduna government or Kaduna United to set up a website for marketing of players, where you streamline all the players that you have and give them their individual potentials, where you'll be able to market your own players. Next slide. This is one huge thing that is neglected, providing sporting infrastructure. Without sporting infrastructure, Kaduna United cannot go anywhere. You cannot do any football without infrastructure. We have to build AstroSoft for the players to be able to trade upon. Because if you train a player from local players from this environment, it's difficult for them to cope when they go to Europe. Next slide. Economy of the state. Next slide. I've spoken about this. The return of investment for Kaduna State. You see, Kaduna State has over the years have proven to be thriving hub for great footballing talent. Some of the best players that came from Nigeria, Zani Amokachi, Celestin Babayaro, Tijani Babangida, Moses Simon, Sadiq Umar, have their roots in Kaduna. Sadiq Umar himself has just been transferred from Almeria to Sociedad, Real Sociedad, for about how much? Look at the amount here, 26 million euros. If this boy was to be from Kaduna United, all the money would have, 5% of that amount would have come to Kaduna United or Kaduna United Football Academy. Next slide. Can you leave that slide, please? I'm interested about the money. Look at it, this 26 million euros. 26 million euros, 5 of it that has come to Nigeria to Kaduna United would have been 8 billion naira. One transfer. Just one transfer. This is a business that I think that is good for Kaduna State government to put more effort in it. Next slide. That is the return on investment. Every company is striving towards arriving on return on investment. Without return on investment, you'll not be able, your company is not said to have been striving. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Barrister Jamba Zira. He doubles as the CEO and the president of Jamba Football Club here in Kaduna. All right, so now we'll move over to our next panel session. I'd like to invite, first of all, Engineer John Wire from CB Nigeria Limited. I believe he's here. All right, please, Engineer John, please. A round of applause for Engineer as he makes his. Anywhere here will be fine. Also, I'd like to call on Nere Emiko, the Managing Director of Kian Smith. I believe she's okay. She's getting ready. Don't worry, take your time. We're waiting. Also, I'd like to call on Dr. Mohammed Nura Sani Husseini, the Director General, Kaduna Mining Development Limited. Please, a round of applause for him too. Sir, please, you can take your seat. And right now, I would like to hand over to the moderator for this panel session, Mr. Cyril Azobu, a partner, head advisory consulting and mining leader, West Africa PwC. Please, a round of applause for him as he makes his. All right, sir. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the session. My name once again is Cyril Azobu, and I'm so glad to have with me very, very competent and experienced people within the mining industry. I want to first appreciate the team for inviting me here all the way to Kaduna. I haven't been here in a long time, but I've been very pleased at what I've heard, particularly from the Director General of the Kaduna Mining Development Company. So thanks for those expository initial presentations that we had in the morning. Okay, so I've been in the industry for quite a while, and I've followed through the developments that have happened across the nation, and even more so, that I've seen a lot that has been said today about the mining industry. Be it so that the current administration places a lot of emphasis on the mining industry, and looking forward to diversification of our economy by increasing not only the contribution to our GDP, but from the state's perspective, the extent to which mining can contribute to our IGR. And I'm so glad that Kaduna has really taken a lead to provide, some of those initiatives in collaborating with the federal government and also private sector to be able to tap into the abundant resources that are in Kaduna State. So I've got with me once again the Managing Director of Ken Smith, Neri, and also Suya, that is here, sorry, excuse me. Surya, yes, sorry, I thought you wanted to say something. Of course, I met John today and Surya today, and we had a very good discussion, and he acquired in business, basically granite from upstream cutting of the granite stones to processing and also finding his way through industry. So I want to start with immediate right. The DG of the Kaduna Mining Development Company. We haven't had so much time to talk, and I hope we'll have enough time to talk after today, after this session, and so I can learn a few more of what is happening in Kaduna. Now, you did mention some interesting collaboration with some players in the industry. Is there someone else coming in yet? Okay, oh, great. So you want to do the introduction of the Kaduna State Internal Revenue Service, who is here with us today. Please join me as I welcome to the podium the Kaduna State Internal Revenue Service, Dr. Zaid Abubakar. Please welcome. Oh, welcome, sir. Please have your seats. Thank you. Okay, so I had already jumped you. I was going to start from the DG of the mining development company, but I think now that you are here, I won't allow you catch your breath because I already sat on your seat, so you will be the one to start. Okay, so I'd seen somewhere where it was mentioned that Kaduna State has the capacity to generate at least 450 to 500 million naira, in terms of internal revenue service. And we had, as a country, had looked to, raising the gain in terms of contribution. Previously, Nigeria used to have significant contribution from the mining industry, and today is just barely 0.3%. And I think the Kaduna State's story is reflective of the larger community, even though there's a lot of activity. So I want to start from you, sir. So first of all, before I go into generic questions, just to know your thoughts. I know there's a lot happening in terms of where we've moved to, considering where we're coming from in Kaduna, and how you then see in terms of revenue generation now. How do you see the mining or the solid mineral sector contribute to your IGR within the subsector or the subsect rather of the Nigerian economy? There's a microphone there. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on this panel. To address your question directly, I see the solid mineral sector as the most potential sector for Kaduna State when it comes to revenue generation going forward. In the last few decades, most of the subnationals spent most of their time trying to go after personal income taxes, PAYE as they call it, payee of people in employment and the rest. But looking at Kaduna State and the potentials we have, going away from those kind of traditional tax types or revenue streams, we see solid mineral as the most potential and the most promising area for Kaduna State to make more money. And that is why when we are reviewing our medium-term revenue collection as well as the long-term revenue collection plan, the focus has been to move away from traditional sources of income to the most, endowed and most promising ones for Kaduna State. The new focus starting from next year will be on what we'll be able to achieve with the solid mineral sector as well as the transportation sector, because for Kaduna being a transit state, these are some of the most promising areas for us. And to add to that, to give it more of a flavor, because if I tell you that the most promising area for us going forward are solid mineral subsector, then you might also want to know how much will be maybe in figure terms, that is in Naira terms, how much are we estimating or expecting to get from solid mineral? Now, the medium-term revenue collection plan predicts that in the next 7, 8, or 10 years, Kaduna State government should be able to make more than 200 billion in revenue. And 40 to 45% of this revenue will come from solid mineral and transport sector. Then we can take personal income taxes to take the back seat. But we are also not forgetful of some of the constraints we have when it comes to solid mineral. Going by the constitutional arrangement, solid mineral, the physical regime under solid mineral has been hampered by constitutional restraint, because specifically item 39 of the Constitution, especially under the exclusive legislative list, gives federal government the exclusive reserve to deal with solid mineral sector completely. Now, to go forward also, the physical regimes that has to do with collection, has to do with revenue, has given a lot of incentives to the mineral, the mining companies, so to say. And these incentives, from my own take, has hampered the ability of both the federal government and the subnationals to get the maximum revenue that we are destined to get from the mining sector. Take example, companies that are into mining sector, they can enjoy up to 5 years, tax-free period. For the beginning, they can get 3 years, subject to satisfactory performance, they get up to, 5 years, additional 2 years. It doesn't stop there. These companies are also free to import their plant and machinery free of import and custom duties. They can also have their expatriate quota free of any payment.
Yeah.
They can also enjoy what we call in tax environment, capital allowance, 95% in the year of purchase of their equipment. So right from day one, the mining sector has enjoyed a lot of incentives to the benefit of the mining companies and to the detriment of both federal government and the subnational government. So we have to do a lot of things to take away some of those constitutional restraints. And that is why if you check the submission by Nigerian Governors Forum, especially as it affects the evolution of power, they've been talking about how the federal government should devolve a lot of powers to the subnational so that states like Kaduna that have abundance of mineral resources will be able to benefit from that. If that happens in the next 1 or 2 years, I can tell you even the 200 billion we are budgeting or predicted to get will just be a child's play.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about, from my own records, Kaduna should be able to make 1 trillion naira in the next 5 years.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So, pardon me, I actually was speaking in millions. I need to get to your level where I talk in trillions, actually. I should have actually said 500, 450 billion to you. Yes, I'll come to you, sir. And I think.
I want to appear very modest. I don't want to interject, actually.
Yeah.
But I think my colleague, who we should actually be on the same page, is talking on the point of view of being a tax person.
Yes.
When we talk about revenue, internal revenue, for me, it's not just collecting tax that matters.
Yeah.
Again, mining is a special field that you may not just really blend it to other normal industries. The idea of having that 5-year tax period is because mining is a high-risk venture. There are a lot of people who spend billions of naira searching and exploration, and they will waste all the resources without getting anything, and they have to get out and continue. And that is why that holiday is given to them so that they can have, a space to maneuver. Again, when we're talking about mining, we're talking about serious work, serious industry, not relaxing that somebody will work and then just take tax out, be shouting that you have made money. Now you are the one that will make your money yourself. And therefore, that is the real revenue. When we talk about real revenue in this context, we're not talking about you being involved in that industry, you been producing. We've all been saying that our problem in this country is being a consuming nation, and we now want to change that narrative into actually a producing nation. Now, by the time Kaduna State, as it started, become a real mining destination, which of course we have started, moving to that direction, then you find out that the profit is what we will now be concerned about. We are setting a stage where our partners are actually real partners in terms of, doing business together, in terms of sharing profit or share with our equity with them. And with this, you find out that the holiday will be enjoyed, which we think we are scared of that will maybe rob up of some revenues. It's actually also of our own benefit. Again, these are some of the incentives that will bring multinationals to come to you. No matter how much we want to make, we have to relax. We have to set the environment very enabling, just as Hadiba has been doing, so that they will be with us. It is only when they are here and they've started enjoying what we have that we can now begin to explain what they are having.
Absolutely.
So that's very important for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Dr. Sani Usaini. I agree with you totally. And it depends on how you want to look at the water half full or half empty, right? If you want to drive revenue generation, you must build an enabling environment for investors to come in and thrive in that business before you make your revenue. So it speaks to both sides. And I really want to come back to some of the words you've used earlier. And one of them is the fact that you said something about the exclusive list and what the subnational levels are talking about in terms of the constitution. And then you did say something about mining is a very high risk environment. And that is actually true. And I think one of the things I find with Kaduna State is in trying to de-risk is to participate. Even though you would be a regulator at some point, in some respect, within the state confines, you're also participating, which is a very good thing. And that actually speaks to the idea that you already said. So even if you cannot be the owner, you can participate. And one of the good things you've done in Kaduna State is to buy, mineral rights. And I saw your earlier presentations where you talked about nickel, a lot of minerals of the future, and even iron ore. And there's a whole lot of things happening right now. So let me just hear from you, sir. What exactly is the traction you're making, really, in how you are repositioning the industry? Because this is really talking about growth generally and how we get the industry to develop and grow. So tell us really in a nutshell what exactly you're doing, and that speaks to your response really in opening up the investment landscape within the mining sector in Kaduna State. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Just as you rightly said, mining is a very high-risk business. It has gestation period. It requires a minimum of 5 years to be able to be on ground fully. Sometimes, because of the difficult nature of the business, the licenses for exploration actually given up to 7 years. First 3 years, then they will be to be renewed twice to 2 years for you to be able to establish that this place is viable. You have your reserve estimation, and then you can generate what we call bankable geoscientific data. Of course, if you can have that, it means you can go walk into any bank and they will finance your venture. Now, in Kaduna, having understood that there is always that fear of I can invest and lose, the state government set up a special purpose vehicle, which I am working with, Kaduna Mining Development Company Limited, and then of course find out most of the high potential areas of these mineral resources. As we said, of course, the state is blessed with a lot of gold resources, nickel, tin, lithium, and a number of very high minerals that are called critical minerals for the future. And on them, of course, we covered licenses that is about 5,000 cadastral units. Of course, that translates to about 1,000 square kilometer of area in the tenement. Now, to do it, of course, this is, assessing these resources. This is to make it simpler and reduce the time you will take to identify where you can go. And this also to be able to collaborate easily with the federal government, who, of course, have the exclusive right of regulating and controlling these resources. Be that as it may, even though federal government is regulating these resources, these enormous resources, there are a lot of also ways that are open, especially state government as well as investors. In the wisdom of federal government, and of course, embedded in Minerals and Mining Act 2007, there is a provision made, section 34, that set up SMDL, Soil Mineral Development Fund. This is a special fund to actually help in de-risking some of these resources, so that investor can easily come and have minimum, fear of having very good return on his investment. Kaduna State has also gone ahead and executed an MOU with that agency, and we are working towards that to also be able to develop some of these licenses that we have. Beyond, of course, the partners we already have in the state that have been working assiduously with us over the last 3 years. Again, we are also very fortunate because of the resilience and the approach of proactiveness of our governor, that already within the space of these 2 years, we are already exploiting our lithium resources. In fact, I can say with a lot of courage that a lot of revenues will start coming, and I will be the best friend very soon with my colleague here. Because in one of our licenses, not that we even started serious mining, on the course of exploration, we just stumbled on some goods. And of course, by law, we declare that we have these materials, about 400 tons, and we already pay royalty in millions. Now, the preparation is moving on. In the next 1 month, we'll start full-blown mining, and I'm sure that revenue will start trickling in very seriously. Again, this is just one out of the 40 we are talking about. And therefore, Kaduna State has already have a direction, and we position our mining sector properly. This is just on government side. I want to quickly add that African mines and African resources and mines are already there with their plants. This is a plant that is employing 10,000 direct and indirect staff. The tax that my friend is very happy will come, a lot of revenue, and because they are going to produce liquid steel, there are a lot of intermediary companies that will spring up. You can only imagine what will happen when this nation, for the first time, start to produce its own liquid steel. We are actually breaking up. We are obviously opening for industrialization. Okay. And in no time, Kaduna will be the point, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I'm told I have 15 minutes more, so I don't know what I can do with 15 minutes. I know your partner's in progress, so you're not competing. The revenue man is your friend, yeah, just like the police is your friend. So yes, so let's get to private sector. We've been talking about government perspective, and I'm glad that the DG of the development company actually is the handshake between private sector and public sector. and in terms of your JV arrangements. So let's go to the gentleman and the lady we have in the house. Nere actually, operates in the gold sector, and she's been working with a lot of artisanals over the years, and she's actually done a bit of gold refining, and there's a whole lot that she has to share. And I thought that it would be good to share your experience within that industry, and particularly what the government of Kaduna within the mining industry can learn from your experience in the gold sector.
Okay. Thank you, Cyril. I'm going to answer your question in a different way.
Okay.
So I just to be in line with all we're discussing, I'd rather discuss how how we see Kaduna really fitting in the gold value chain and playing in that space. So we play in gold exploration, mining, processing, refining, the whole value chain, retailing, all around. But one thing we really see for Kaduna that's really interesting is Kaduna has a very strategic history and place in Nigeria in terms of value addition, even for agriculture, industry, textile. So I think Kaduna already has that DNA of value addition. And I was very interested in the infrastructure segment because it was just testifying about the vision we had. I think there's about 2, maybe 3 now, free trade zones in Kaduna State. Okay, 1. Well, there was one that I saw, the green, but it's amazing because the government is bullish. There's a free trade zone. You can see the infrastructure, the roads, power. And so what we really imagine is that Kaduna naturally could become that processing and refining aggregation hub for gold, not just for northern Nigeria, but even for, should we say, the northern part of ECOWAS, even the gold coming from Cameroon, from Niger, and the proximity of Kaduna to the Kano market, where Kano is very, very big on retail. We really see Kaduna having that strategic place to do value addition, also because of energy. So this is what we really think and we see for gold, especially with the free trade zone being available here. So that's how we really see Kaduna fitting. We already are doing something in Southwest Nigeria. I think Kaduna should be the home of gold value addition for the region. So that's what I'll say.
Thank you very much.
We have a few minutes.
Thank you very much. And I think I like that part, the value addition, and which speaks to the entire value chain, just beyond mining. And there's a whole lot of processing that needs to happen. And that creates an ecosystem, really, and opening up the investment landscape for other,
And actually, to add to something we were saying about revenue, I think the focus this way is really you're bringing investment and you're generating jobs and you're building the economy. I think the focus at the beginning shouldn't be so much about, similar to what DJ was saying, about profits.
Yeah.
If you have this boom that's coming, you bring investors here, you start creating the jobs. To comment, it takes Tegilola mine that's in, a lot about that. It's taking them more than 20 years to see that mine come into production. That's, I think, about 4 state governors. Let me just say this clearly. There's not one governor or one administration that can start a mine start to finish. It needs a long-term plan handshake. So that's really the danger sometimes with that drive being for looking for how much profits we can get. It's a long plan and it needs to be, let me say this carefully. I think the plan is better held in the hands of private sector. Working in partnership with the government, because one administration will come and will go, and there will always be that gap in between. But the only way that Kaduna can just hit the ground running and keep going is to have a good synergy between the private sector and the public sector.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much, Neri. And that really is demonstrated here with this whole KADINVEST promotion. So yes, my very good friend in the quarrying session, and specifically you are into granite, quarrying and also processing as well. Maybe you can tell me your own story from that, perspective as an investor and investing in Kaduna. Could you just share your experience? Yeah.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of the panel. My name is Tura, and I'm the Managing Director of Chibi Nigeria Limited. This year, we celebrate 30 years in the industry. We started quarrying in 1992, and we also process. We're into dimension stone processing, so basically converting raw granite blocks into floor tiles, slabs for kitchen top, and etc. First of all, the first thing I would like to say is there's no better place, there's no better state as far as we're concerned in our industry for dimension stone. Kaduna State is blessed with one of the largest variety of stones, right from Zaria to the deepest parts of southern Kaduna. About, I think, 2011, we did a baseline study of the industry. It was sponsored by the World Bank via the Ministry of Solid Minerals. And it was very clear what Kaduna State had. So we will definitely do it again and again in Kaduna State. I would like to talk about mostly the challenges because just like the MD of the Kandida Mining has spoken, and he's spoken really well, that the mining industry is one of those industries that the realities are not really understood. The mining sector is a sector that needs time, and like Nere said as well, it needs time to mature. You know, if you look at countries that have developed in mining, it's taking them 20 years, first of all, just to develop first, before you start getting the gains of it. In the dimension stone industry, we're like more of the low-hanging fruits. So it doesn't take us as long to, you know, actualize our goals. Let's say between 5 to 10 years, you start to, you know, get gains and everything. So in a nutshell, just answer a question for us. It's been a worthwhile venture. 30 years has been a good ride, and we will still invest in Kaduna State for the next 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure how much more time I have. I think the time is gone and the rain isn't helping that matter. And I wish we could have a lot more time because this is the solid mineral session, but I know that the commissioner will be needs to leave because of the time. And perhaps one last word, if you don't mind, please, one last, in 30 seconds each, if you don't mind. Let me just hear them say one more thing so we can quickly get out of here. So one more, just one word. Please pass the microphone in about 30 seconds or 1 minute each. Just tell us one last thing that you wish you could have said and which we didn't have time to say in 1 minute max.
Well, for me, I just want to clear the grounds.
Up. If we come this side. And the whole laptop.